1240.
Texas back in town. Yes, folks, it's time for Cowboy Up with Tex. I've been gone for several weeks. I had to take care of some family business in California. And, you know, it's always interesting to go to California to see how the other half lives, so to speak. You know, those people out there, they're interesting. They have a totally different way of looking at things. And the problem is, you know, they say a lot of stuff starts in California and ends up going to the rest of the country. Well, while I was gone, that's when we started having all these Supreme Court decisions finally coming down. And, you know, I think I can truthfully say that the America that I came back to, the America of today, is not the America that I left when I went to California. You know, America used to be the land of the free, the home of the brave. Well, we may still have some brave people here, but folks, this is no longer the land of the free. It's been getting worse and worse, and it all seems to start in California and work its way to the rest of the country. You know, they have control of so much of the media between Hollywood and LA that when they decide they want to do something to influence the rest of the country, they just do it. And too many people are not able to see through the lies that they propagate. You know, we've got the one decision on Obamacare. Well, Antonin Scalia, I think it was the one that he's so irritated. He's practically ready to just give up on being a Supreme Court justice. He said that they had to twist and turn so much to come up with the decision that the liberal side of the court came up with, led by, of all people, John Roberts, who's as much a conservative as John Boehner is, that it's, I think the problem was that the Democrats, of course, wanted the law upheld so that they could be heroes. The Republicans wanted the law upheld, really, most of them wanted the law upheld so that when it crashes, they can say, see, it wasn't our fault. It was a bad law. Obama, of course, wants it upheld because it's part of his legacy. So when you had basically the other 2/3 of the federal government, the legislative and the executive, wanting the law to be upheld, no matter its constitutionality, well, they just went along. They, you know, the Supreme Court did not uphold their oath to enforce the law, to enforce the Constitution of this United States of America. And then, of course, they had the big ruling on homosexual agenda rights. They're not gay. They're homosexuals, pure and simple. That's what the word means. There again, you know, Hollywood steps in. And, you know, if you were to ask the average person in the United States today, how much of this country is homosexual? What's the percentage of homosexuals in this country? Most people would probably say, oh, 20 to 25%. Well, you know, every time you turn the TV on, you know, every show's got at least one or two. Every movie's got at least one or two. You know, it's like anytime you have a group of people now, you got to have the obligatory Hispanic, you got to have the obligatory black, and you got to have the obligatory gay. Well, sometimes they manage to work it in so that maybe the black is gay or the Hispanic is gay or, you know, something like that to kind of cover two bases at once. And in Hollywood, this is kind of true. I mean, they've got this one whole area called West Hollywood, which is like the San Francisco of LA. That area is almost entirely homosexual as a neighborhood, as a city. But when you look at the total population of the United States, the U.S. Census Bureau says that in actuality, less than 2% of all the people in the United States claim to be gay. And of that, only about 2 to 5% of that 2% are actually interested in getting married. With the end result being that we're supposed to totally upend thousands of years of precedents, thousands of years of laws, and millions of people's attitudes for 5% of 2% of the population. Never mind that there was other alternatives. You know, it's kind of like this thing about right now that's going on. Now that they've got that taken care of, you know, that lobby is looking for what's the next thing to march on. Well, it's the transsexuals. You know, we got to keep this momentum going, guys. We got to keep it going. So what are they doing? They're looking for the next big thing, which is transsexuals. Well, you know, if they are a transsexual, they need to be able to go to the appropriate restroom, regardless of whether they've had the operation or not, regardless of whether they've had any medication or not. Well, you know, he just feels like he might be a woman, so he's entitled to go into the women's locker room at the workout center and see all the other women in there, you know, taking showers, getting, you know, changing clothes and all that sort of stuff, regardless of their age, you know, doesn't matter. It's his right. No, maybe he just needs to go see a psychiatrist. Let's assume that gets done. Okay, so, okay, now we've got all these transsexual rights done. What is next? You know, they asked that in the Supreme Court during the hearings for the homosexual hearings. Well, what's next? You know, are you going to have males marrying multiple males? Are you going to have like polygamy? You know, and that might be one of the next things. You know, of course, you've got a lot of the Mormons out west who have for years have been wanting polygamy, which was only denied them by the federal government. They going to bring that back? Well, what if, you know, the next thing would be like, instead of one man marrying one man or one woman marrying one woman, what if you get like whole little harems of people marrying each other? What's next? You know, that's the thing is, you know, there's always something else until you stand up and say, this is the line in the sand, no more. There will always be something next. And once you start changing the words, everything's fair game. You know, that's how they got Obamacare passed in the Supreme Court. I remember back when Obamacare was first being debated, and they were going back and forth over the exact wording of how it was going to be written down. And there was some of the states that said, we want this particular phrase, the state, in there. So to get it passed, they put that phrase in there. That is the exact phrase that John Roberts claims let them overturn it because, well, we had to say that, well, the state actually meant the federal government, No, that was not its original intent. There was big editorials, there was big debates on TV and radio and everything about that phrase at the time it was passed. Never mind, that was not what was needed to get it passed. So they totally ignored that part of it and decided to change the meaning of the phrase. And that's what got Scalia so upset, is because they were turning it completely on its head to get the desired result, regardless of its legality. In today's paper, the Times Free Press, Region, page B1, big headline, AG asks Congress to protect religious freedom. This is the United States of America. The First Amendment says no laws shall be passed. But yet here we have the attorney generals from several different states, including our own, begging Congress to enact some sort of law to protect our religious rights of belief. What has happened to this country? And of course, you know, if you've got any thoughts on this or any comments to anything I'm saying, you're certainly welcome to call in at 800-8949. I'm always open to listening to other people, but I make up my own mind. But if you've got something to say on this issue, or if you've got a comment to make about something I've said, please call in. Again, 800-8949, right here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. I was telling somebody earlier today, you know, if they had time travel possible right now, and I was to go back 20, 30 years ago and go to my dad and say, hey, Dad, guess what happened? And I started telling him about all the stuff that's happened in the last 2 weeks in this country. He could not find a big enough bar of soap to be able to wash my mouth out. It looks like we do have somebody calling in. Hello, caller.
Great to hear you back on the radio, Tex.
Yeah, it was so aggravating being out of town and not having a mic. I was just like, just.
Well, I hope you know when you go swimming in a pond or a dirty lake that you have to clean your clothes before you go in the pool. So I hope after coming back to California, you got all that dirt and filth off you.
Really?
Yeah, you know, there was a report, and Russell did it on the news, how the EPA is ignoring the Supreme Court and the left ignores the Supreme Court. But for some reason, you know, people that are law-abiding citizens and the right, the conservatives, tend to obey laws, and I say it's time to stop. I would tell all the pathonetaries of the court to refuse any filings for sodomites that claim they're married. And I would say any Supreme Court rule that is immoral, illegal, or unconstitutional, ignore their opinion because it's not law. Every Supreme Court decision, it says the opinion of the court. Just ignore that.
Well, one of the things that I was actually going to be talking about here in just a little bit is this is where the 10th Amendment of the Constitution actually does come into play, because it gives the states the right and the ability to disregard federal acts when it is opposed to the state constitution. And just because the Supreme Court says something does not mean the states are obligated to do it.
But in many cases, the states want to because they're on the federal kid.
Exactly.
They have to get off of that.
Yep, that is.
Get off of it. They have to suffer if necessary and refuse the federal money.
Yeah. And, you know, and one of the things that a lot of the states need to get back to is right now, all of our money goes to the IRS, and then the states end up begging for the money back. What we need to do is we need to get to the point to where the states take in all the tax money.
They send it to Washington that gets redistributed, but really the money is not sent to the IRS. It's actually sent to the Federal Reserve banking.
Well, yeah, there's various taxes, and different taxes get put in the pipeline different ways. But
I know what you're talking.
But but the thing of it is the states need to get back to where they take in the tax money and go forward from there. Anyway, let's see. There we go. So, but there again, it gets back to what has happened to our country. Where are we going to next? How much longer are the silent majority, of which this country actually does have a silent majority, how much longer are they going to kowtow to these people? Political correctness is a form of mind control. That's exactly what it is. George Orwell knew exactly what he was talking about when he talked about Big Brother and how the government would speak. And that's what it boils down to. Black is white, white is black. The state. Well, the state doesn't mean the individual states like it did when they said it. The state means the federal government. They twist and pervert the words to whatever they want them to be, regardless of what the word actually means. And until the people hold their feet to the fire on this, nothing's going to change. But that's where it starts, is with the people, with you, the listeners. If we can't reel in the federal government through people like Coker, Alexander, Fleischman, people like this, if we cannot get them to have our backs and to do what's right, then we have to go to the state level and get our state people to stand up to the federal government. And one way of doing that is through the 10th Amendment. A lot of people are calling for things like, an Article 5 convention. And on the one hand, I'm kind of opposed to an Article 5 convention because something like that could get out of control real fast and could cause a lot of problems, because it's not just the conservatives that are going to be talking. It's going to be, a lot of the liberals are going to be trying to get in there and do things. And in an Article 5 convention, they could literally dissolve some of the amendments, like the First Amendment. Hillary would love that. The Second Amendment. How many liberals in this country would love to have guns taken away from everybody as a first step in gaining power in this country? So an Article 5 convention, I don't know if it's the panacea that some people see it, but the way things are going, we might as well do it, because they can't be much worse than what our official federal government is doing to us now. If we don't stand up and start trying to take our country back, it is well and truly lost. Because like I said, the America that I left 4 weeks ago is not the America I came home to when I came back to Chattanooga yesterday. And that's the thing. The federal government, starting with Obama, they don't obey the laws that you and I have to obey. They obey the laws they want to obey. They enforce the laws they want to enforce and ignore the ones that they don't want. A good example of which is illegal immigration. The liberals have decided that they don't want this country to have borders, one world society, so they do everything they can to not enforce federal laws on immigration. Meanwhile, they deny the states the opportunity to do it. Well, the states need to do it anyway. Arizona needs to just say, forget you. I'm going to do what I have to do to protect my citizens and do it. And dare the federal government to stop them. Because I don't see even Obama sending federal troops in. Well, I don't know. We've got Jade Helms starting up any day. You've heard me talk about Jade Helm, where the federal government's having all of these exercises. Or are they? We'll be back after these commercial words.
Give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Hi, this is your computer speaking. I don't feel so well. It's like I've come down with a bug, and I'm getting slower.
Affordable Computers. We fix sick computers. Your hometown guys at Affordable Computers will repair your PC in half the time of the big boys at an affordable price. No tricks, no gimmicks, no computer speak techno babble. Just good, quick, and courteous affordable service and repairs. Want to affordably supercharge your PC? Affordable Computers on Highway 58. Affordable Computers hand builds all desktops in-house. If you're looking for a better than new refurb laptop, $150 will get you a Dell or another name brand at Affordable Computers. Affordable Computers, Highway 58 between Arby's and Taco Bell. Also Fort O, Battlefield Parkway near Holcomb's. Affordable Computers, we service what we sell. Call 499-1975. That's 499-1975.
Wow, this is amazing. I'm feeling great. Supercharged.
We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection, loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
You feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducts. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You love your hometown. Are you interested in free markets, in local economy? Do you hope that Chattanooga can survive the next meltdown, the next chain of disasters in the national economy? What's the best way to live out the ideals of self-government and self-determination? Join me, David Toulis, weekdays 1 to 3.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Love your neighbor, buy local.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Welcome back to the second half of Cowboy Up with Tex. You've got us here at Hot News Talk Radio, 1240 AM. You can go to all sorts of interesting shows, such as Digital Drive Time with Russell, Nuganomics.com with David Toulis, and, of course, Sean Hannity which we'll have more Sean Hannity coming up after my show, which is, of course, Cowboy Up with Tex. You know, I was talking about how America has changed, how people even 20, 30 years ago would not recognize the America that we're in today. The America that we're in today almost corresponds more to Russia, to the Soviet Union back in the 70s. How could that be? No, you're wrong. You're wrong. Oh yeah, well, let's look at a few things. I've mentioned in the past about how I worked for the Texas State Prison System for 7 years. So that's a environment that I'm very familiar with. And you know, you've got prison slang that the inmates start using, but then even the employees start using. And one of the phrases they had was the free world. You know, and they'd get like a shot of coffee, but it was state coffee that wasn't very flavorful. And they would go down to the commissary to buy some free world coffee. Maybe like, you know, some Maxwell House or something like that. Oh yeah, that's the free world coffee. Or oh, I can't wait to go to the free world. Well, you know, when you start thinking about the prison environment and comparing it to society in general that we have today, you start coming across some pretty amazing parallels. You know, the security practices that we used in the prison system are being implemented right here in what we consider the free world. It's getting to the point to where we do live in a prison, just one without visible walls. It's gotten to the point to where, like I said, the home of the free is dead. We are no longer free. You know, in federal prisons, cameras are everywhere. Every room had a camera. What about right here in our free world? Even our cops are starting to become loaded with their own cameras. Their cars have cameras. They have cameras. They have cameras here, there, everywhere. Just look at some of the TV shows. Oh, you know, we can track them all the way across the city just watching them from camera to camera to camera. And yeah, some of those cameras might be quote, quote, private, you know, from some company, you know, like maybe a bank watching, you know, their ATM machine. But somehow the police society always manages to tap into those to keep an eye on us. And it's not just the surveillance cameras. They've got license plate readers with the ability to log some 1,800 license plates per hour and the ability to log where those plates are seen. Now, usually, you know, and they have this one show that's called Parking Wars that talks about the people that go around in cities like Detroit and whatnot and give out parking tickets. And they show these license plate readers where they just drive up and down the streets. Oh, this guy he owes 3 parking tickets. We're going to get out and boot his truck. Now we're starting to get drones. And the drones have cameras. Remember the movie Minority Report? They watch us anywhere and everywhere. They got facial recognition software that the government has been using at football games and things of that nature, at, you know, like transportation hubs, like subways. And they scan thousands of people at a time to try to find the people that they're looking for. Then you've got things like detection and confiscation of weapons. Well, that was a normal routine in prison. Was, you know, the inmates would be walking down the hallway. You could go up to any one inmate you wanted to. No reason needed. Put your hands on the wall and pat them down to see if they were carrying anything illicit. But now they do it in New York City. They just call it frisk and detain. You know, some people say, well, you're using that on using it inappropriately. Well, of course they are. Aren't you supposed to have a search warrant? Which they don't have. You know, you don't need one in prison, but they're using it out in the real world now, the free world. I mean, after all, pat-downs, checkpoints, and random searches are part of any prison life. Just depends on where the walls are. I mean, think about it. Police use roadblocks and checkpoints to perform warrantless searches for contraband. Oh, they try to claim that these things are, we're looking for drunks. But yet, as soon as you pull over, are they just saying, okay, let me smell your breath. Okay, you're not drunk. You can proceed. No, license and registration. What do you have in your car? Can I look in your trunk? No, you can't look in my trunk. Well, you're not going anywhere till we get the drug dog over here and walk completely around your car because we're going to search you. Well, what's your probable cause? This is a police stop. We don't need probable cause. The Supreme Court said. That's right, people. The Supreme Court said they don't have to have probable cause. Another right down the tubes. And it's not just, you know, around town. You know, we're doing safety checks. We want to make sure that your child's safety seat is done correctly. We're doing this to check to make sure all your lights are working. We're making sure everybody has a driver's license. They don't worry too much about the driver's license of all the hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens coming across the border. But folks, while I was in California, I did go through some roadblocks that are set up over 100 miles from the border, being run by the Border Patrol. Well, wait a minute, border's 100 miles away. But you know what's interesting is when you go to these Border Patrol checkpoints, you're also seeing other agencies there. ICE, TSA. Yeah, TSA, believe it or not, is at some of these Border Patrol crossings. You've got multiple agencies. Well, if this is only for looking for illegal aliens, why are these other people there? They won't answer you. You're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, right? You have to prove to them that you're an American citizen. You are guilty till you prove you're a citizen. And at first, it's going to be 100 miles from the border. What about when it starts getting to be 1,000 miles from the border? When we start having them between here and Jasper. And these are not little things where they just pop up in the middle of the night and throw a couple of flares out. These things are permanent. What about when the weigh stations that the semi-trucks stop at become our new check stations? Papers, please. Another similarity. Prison officials open, search, and read every piece of mail sent to inmates. Guess what? This is true for us too, in that the United States Postal Service has a program they call Mail Isolation Control and Tracking Program that creates a permanent record of who is corresponding with each other via snail mail. The Postal Service has a program where each piece of physical mail is photographed and stored in a database. That's 160 billion pieces of mail sent out by average Americans are recorded each year. And the police and other government agencies have full access to this information. I write a letter to my grandmother. Big Brother knows about it. You write a letter to your daughter or your son or maybe your grandchild for wish them a happy birthday. Big Brother knows about it. Yes, we have freedom in this country. Well, of course, prison officials also monitor outgoing phone calls made by inmates. And they can listen into those phone calls. Well, wait a minute. Isn't that what the NSA is doing? The NSA tapes everybody's cell phone calls. They have things called stingrays that not only can listen in on your phone call, but can tell the exact spot that you're standing when you make it. And they download all of our text messages, all of our emails, our Facebook posts. Yeah, this is the land of the free. Oh, and then there's, if you have a riot break out at prison, we had a special team. Some people call them SWAT. Some people call them SORT. There in Texas, we called it SORT, Special Operations Reaction Team. Helmets, face shields, batons, knee guards. You could have tear gas. We had special formations that we would do, pinning tactics. Some have armored vehicles and assault weapons. All of these are associated with prison crowd control because they were perfected by the prisons and then are used on the general populace, the free world. What do you call it when prison has a riot and they lock everybody up? They call it a lockup, lockdown, various phrases similar to that, lock all of them involved. What happened in the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing? Everybody in the media was astounded at how quickly the government locked down the city of Boston. Within about 30 to 45 minutes, nobody was going anywhere in Boston. They lowered the boom on that town. And Boston's a big city. It's bigger than Chattanooga. If we had something happen like that out here, how fast would it take law enforcement to react like that here? The so-called free world. And the funny part about this whole thing is that people don't see it. Well, but the thing of it is people have a core belief that this is the land of the free, the home of the brave. This is America. We're founded on freedom. Well, because of that, they don't see what's going on. And, and that's the thing. When somebody knows deep in their heart that this is true, they will ignore all the evidence to the contrary. It's called cognitive dissonance. Because it's so important to protect that core belief that they will rationalize, ignore, and even deny the obvious because it doesn't fit in with that core belief. And right now, that's what's happening here in America. The people are ignoring what's going on because, well, that just can't happen here. But these warning signs have been cautioning us for decades, oblivious to what lies ahead. Everybody ignores the obvious. We've been manipulated into believing that if we just continue to obey, have faith, just keep buying stuff. We've heard that. Oh, we've got to protect society, so go out and spend money. Things will work out. After 9/11, we had to get back to normal. We had to show them that that wasn't going to change us as the government was bringing in TSA, bringing in the NSA, doing all these different things that fundamentally changed our lives. But that's the problem. By the time we feel the hammer coming down on us, it is too late. Back eons ago, I worked at a mall for a while back in Texas, where I worked mall security. And one of the things they would have us do is to go out and get in the little pickup truck that would drive around the mall parking lot. And we always had our lights going. You go down here to Hamilton Place or go over to Northgate, you see their little security vehicles, they always have their lights on. And it made me wonder. And I went up and I asked my boss, I was like, shouldn't we have the lights off? Because if somebody's doing something, if they're breaking into a vehicle, we're just showing them that we're coming, that we're there. They know when to hide because they see our lights from a mile away. And he said something very, very profound to me that bears on this. Mall security is not there to make you safe. Mall security is not there to protect you. Mall security is there to make you feel safe. If you don't feel safe, you won't shop at the mall. And that's true of the TSA. The TSA is not there to protect us. TSA is there to make us feel safe so that we will fly, so that we feel like we're being protected. But how much has the TSA protected us? The underwear bomber got by them. The shoe bomber got by them. You read all the time about these little kids that sneak on a plane and fly to some other city. You've seen where people have taken tickets and gotten on the wrong planes and ended up in the wrong cities because nobody's checking them. Well, they made it through security. We don't need to watch them after that. In fact, what you end up finding is that when TSA tested their own people, 95% of the time, TSA failed. But the important thing is they make us feel safe. But how do we feel safe? Because like good little citizens, we line up, we take our shoes off. We put all of our stuff in the thing. Oh, here's all the stuff I had in my pocket. Here's my wallet. Please let me through. Please, please, can I go fly a plane? Can I go fly on a plane? I would love to have seen John Wayne going through an airport, going through TSA. I'm an American. What happened to that? Where did that go? Rod Serling, who some of you may remember as the face of the Twilight Zone. He said, all the Dachau's must remain standing. The Dachau's, the Belsens, the Buchenwalds, the Auschwitzes, all of these were concentration camps during World War II. All of them. They must remain standing because they are a monument to a moment in time when some men decided to turn the earth into a graveyard. Into it, they shoveled all of their reason, their logic, their knowledge, but worst of all, their conscience. And the moment we forget this, the moment we cease to be haunted by its remembrance, then we become the grave diggers. The lesson of history, the message, stay alert. Well, how do we stay alert? The latest Rasmussen poll showed that a growing number of Americans want their state governments to tell the Supreme Court to hit the road and stop rewriting the Constitution. In other words, the don't tread on me crowd is gaining steam. And remember, folks, just because the Supreme Court says something doesn't make it gospel. At one point, the Supreme Court upheld slavery. They were forced to change their mind. They're not right 100% of the time. And here lately, they haven't been right any of the time. They're doing what's politically expedient, not what is morally right. In the poll, they said that only 20% of likely voters now consider the federal government a protector of individual liberty. 60% see the government as a threat to individual liberty instead. Right now, we have two Americas. one in which individual liberty is still revered, the other where statism and dependency are the norm. The number of people who willingly give up their liberty for a cradle-to-grave dependency on big government is growing. And that's been the whole problem. Because somebody has to pay for that. And it's the rest of us who are being nickel and dimed to death by the federal government to support this statist attitude. And the people that are the statists, they don't care. As long as you have a nickel or a dime to give to them, as long as we have a nickel or a dime for them to take from us, they don't care what we think. In fact, they just wish we'd shut up and keep making a nickel and a dime that they can take from us. We have an executive branch, that's the presidency, which tramples the Constitution on a regular basis. We have a legislative branch that has sold its soul to corporations so that they can maintain their own power. Hello, John and Mitch McConnell and the rest of you. And a Supreme Court comprised of elitist Ivy League graduates who've been molded by leftist-run academia. Do you realize that right now here in America, we are being effectively ruled by 5 lawyers? That's all it takes to totally change our whole society. 5 lawyers. Remember when Obama was denigrating the Supreme Court? Oh, how terrible they were. Oh, he needed to agree. I mean, when they were sitting right there in front of him, when he gave his speech, he talked about how bad they were. But now that they've agreed with him on a couple of things, wow, they're the best thing since sliced bread. 5 people, 5 lawyers have taken our freedom. And what do we do about it? Are we going to do anything about it? That is the question. And the question is almost too late to answer. Thank you for listening to Cowboy Up with Tex. Stay tuned for Sean Hannity. And tomorrow we'll have Weekend Roundup. Good day.
Arnie Gas Goldsmith, Chattanooga's gold standard in quality.